Jazzlyn Gonzalez. I attend Grand Canyon University and I was in the Seoul program for fall 2023. So I attended Sogang University in Seoul.
What factors influence your decision to select this program?
So one of the big factors for me, just because I was on a budget, was the economic factor. So like originally I wanted to go to Europe because Spain sounded amazing, but Europe is a bit more expensive compared to some of the Asian programs. So I was really between afterwards Thailand or Korea. But because of my major and my major's in government, South Korea's been a longstanding ally with the US, so I thought there could be more I could learn or more important information I could maybe learn in South Korea related to my major.
Can you give some tips on surviving the first 2 weeks on site?
Yeah, so the first 2 weeks for me especially were really overwhelming. And I felt really, I guess, dumb because a lot of things I just didn't know, especially because this was my first time even going abroad. Like, I had never been outside the US. The farthest I've ever been, I'm from California, and the farthest I've ever been is Colorado in like 1 week in Washington, D.C. So this was like completely out of my comfort zone. Like, I felt really dumb and I was really hard on myself at the beginning because just little stuff I didn't know. And so I would really advise to like have mercy on yourself while you're adjusting and, take it slow. There's still time, obviously. I would start like planning out, because things can get messy as you go on, like as midterms comes and finals come, it can get messy and things can get lost. So I really recommend like starting like a goal, like start writing down your goals and stuff very quickly, or like at least major things you have planned that you're trying to do.
What was your favorite class and why?
I think my favorite class was probably I was taking this one class called Topics in Korea today that it sounded like we were going to discuss multiple topics, but we were really only talking about population because South Korea, I didn't know before I went, but actually is like I think if not one of the lowest, then the lowest birth rates in the world. And so we were analyzing or researching a lot about like why that is, and I found it really interesting just because you had to look at like economic aspects and social aspects. So I really got to dive into like social aspects of Korea and economic and political aspects of Korea. And so being able to compare between the US and South Korea in those different ways was really interesting to me, especially for my major. It made me really interested and enlightened me on a lot of stuff that I could bring back. So that had to be my favorite, probably.
Can you tell us more about your housing and commute to school?
I actually lived on campus, really close to my building too. I didn't even have to walk across campus that much for my classes. But we lived in Gonzaga. Pretty much all the study abroad students lived in Gonzaga. Overall, like the dorm was really nice, especially compared to like the ones I had back home. It was pretty big, and you get a big window, and usually it's a nice view. Mine was pretty nice too. I liked my view. And yeah, so the dorm was really nice. It was really easy to commute just because the building's on campus and you're right next to like the convenience store and restaurants, so if you want to get something to eat. And so yeah, I really like Gonzaga dorm, and the rules are really like they're flexible. I feel like even if you want to stay out like a night or something, you can fill out a form and they usually let you do it no matter what. So it was pretty nice.
What was your favorite excursion?
My favorite excursion was probably when we went to the palace in like our hanboks, which is just like that dress thing. I think I'm wearing it like in my testimonial, but it's like this traditional Korean dress from a long time ago, and it was just so nice, especially because I love history, and so as it is, the palaces were so interesting to me because the U.S. doesn't have palaces like that. We're like relatively younger compared to like Korea, so it was so interesting to see and hear about like these dynasties and these different empires and the people that lived in these palaces. I mean, obviously, like the palaces have been renovated and like, but they're still supposed to look like the architecture's still supposed to be similar to what it was back then. And so it was just so interesting to see all that, and then also like being a hanbok and everything. It felt like you're kind of like walking through history. It was really cool. That had to be one of my favorites.
How did your on-site director impact your time abroad?
Oh, yeah, she was great. Like, first of all, like right off the bat, she gave us like these list of like different cafes she recommended and restaurants she recommended, which was great because it can be, especially at least Seoul, because it's a big city, it can be really overwhelming at first. Like, oh, where should I go? I don't want to miss out on anything. And so, especially because you're not familiar with anything yet, as time goes by, you'll get like, oh, this is my favorite cafe to study at. This is my favorite place to eat at. But at the beginning, you don't know that. So her lists were actually really helpful at first for directing me, like, okay, let's try this first. And then yeah, and so right off the bat, that was really helpful. And then it was just really nice to have someone who can like offer you advice if you needed. Like, let's say I really wanted to try this dish, and I was like, oh, because her name was Tatum. I'd be like, Tatum, do you know where I can like try this, like where they're known for this dish? And then she would give me like places, and so it was really nice to have someone who can help you in that area, especially because she's fluent too in Korean. So if any problems arise, she can help out, and she was really like a good support system to have over there, especially because like a lot of my friends that were also studying abroad through different programs didn't really have someone like that. Like I remember one of my friends, like she had to go to the hospital. Luckily, nothing like that happened to me, but she had to go to the hospital because she was really sick. And I remember feeling so bad because I couldn't help because I'm not fluent, but like she was really lost in the whole process because she was not understanding the doctor. And it took forever to get someone who can speak English. So like I could not imagine like if I was in her shoes with no one. Like at least Tatum was there to support me just in case something did happen. So it was really nice.
Can you share tips on transitioning from being on site to coming back home?
I would really if I could go back, I would want to take it more slow because right away when I got back, I had to go because my brother was getting married, and then right after that was Christmas, and then New Year's. And my family, at least, they're super like loud, and I have a huge family. And so for me, the rough thing, I know like everyone struggled with different things, like coming, like adjusting back. But for me, a big thing was just adjusting to the English conversations around me because in Korea everyone speaks a different language, so I got used to kind of tuning out everyone else, I guess, not in a bad way, just like because I didn't understand. My Korean's not the best, but so I got used to focusing only on the conversation in front of me, or like if the rare person who was speaking English out in public, then I would like turn my head, and like it was just English was more, it like caught my ear quicker. And so when I came back to the US, that was really, I guess, like overstimulating at first and really overwhelming because like having a bunch of conversations thrown at me at the same time, like in English, it was really like, oh my gosh. And so all these family events are really overwhelming at first. And so I would really recommend like maybe taking it slow and I don't know, giving yourself time. And like I said, probably mercy like in the beginning of your study abroad program, just because you're going to be adjusting to new things, and you're going to be like, for example, in Korea, I got used to kind of like bowing a bit. And so when I came back, I did that, and I was like, oh, like that came out of like people were asking me like, why are you bowing? Like you don't have to bow to me. And I was just like, oh my bad. Like it's just got something I got used to over there. And so yeah, you're gonna miss it a lot, but just I guess plan to go back more. That's what I've been doing. But yeah.
What surprised you about your time abroad?
I guess really like how much I would be willing to stay in Korea, to be honest. Because at first, I was raised in the suburbs. I mean I do go to university in Phoenix, but it's really our like I to save money, I tend to stay in the university. So I haven't really lived like in a big city before. And so Seoul was completely different for me. And at first I was like, yeah, I can never live here. I'm so used to living like in a smaller town or just, yeah, I'm just not used to the city. And so in my brain was like, yeah, I couldn't live here. I was like, I love it, but I would never be able to stay. But I ended up really falling in love with it. Like I love the public transportation. It was so nice. And then like the street food everywhere, like I didn't really have that back home. And so it was really nice. And I was really, really sad to leave. And so I guess I learned about myself in that way because otherwise I would have never learned or knew that I could live in a city like that because I had never thought I could.